We'll bring the December 24 Park and Rec Board meeting to order. Is there any citizens input? Are there any delegations? Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board minutes.
We're going to assume that you read through them, so I don't need to scroll through 4 pages here. Unless you want me to.
Anybody got any comments or questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Financial reports.
Superintendent, is there anything out of the ordinary you wish to point out as regarding revenue expense?
The only thing I had a question about is what is the O'Connor company? Looks like it was for it says not cooling for aquatic, 17,000.
That was our big unit up top. It's hasn't been working for about a year. And so, well, there's 4 compressors and one of them, I believe, was working, they said. And so they had to come and,
6 years old.
yeah, redo some stuff. And we actually got by pretty cheap, honestly. But that is, we haven't had any problems, knock on wood, since. So, yep, everything's good. Yep.
I'll move to approve the financial report. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approve the, department reports.
If anybody has any questions, I'll start. You can ask questions. I just want to highlight a couple things on here, though. But we did host the first swim meet of the year. The Dakota Riptide had a swim meet this last weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They were expecting 300 swimmers. They had 2, I think it was Aberdeen and Watertown that dropped out, but still ended up close to 280 swimmers. So big meet. They did a good job again. They run a smooth meet. We can hardly tell that they're there when we come back in on Monday. So it's good working with them on those. They had a lot of good compliments on the meet, the facility. So most of them will be back for the June, or the January meet, and then we'll host that state 12 and under meet in February. And I wanted to also highlight Todd Kavanaugh, who's been our program coordinator for 10 years, is going to be retiring. He'll be done January 3rd, so just want to thank him for all the time and effort he's put in over the last 10 years.
Any questions of Kevin?
In the process of finding one yet?
No, not yet. I'm not sure when we'll be able to hire, but we've talked about a few things as far as being able to maybe have college kids apply that might be graduating at the end of next semester or whatever. So we'll see how that all shakes out. So
Not that we're looking for a specific age group, but you're going to have a wider field of candidates available.
Absolutely.
I guess I came in, Kevin, but for the swim meet, but is it closed off the whole time for the
pool?
members on the, no, the members on the other side?
nope. It's
Okay.
all of our fitness stuff is available. And we try and I put out in the newsletter and an email too, just to kind of remind everybody that we're having it and that the fitness stuff and the back gym is open, just parking is obviously limited. So,
Ask that question.
yeah. So, I mean, there's still people that make their way in and might have to park a couple blocks away, but they make it work. And so it's nice. It's nice that we can have that meet and still be open, you know, having all of our stuff on one end of the building for the fitness and then the pool's kind of on the other end. So it works out pretty good that way.
It's nice to know they're still committed. They don't have to have the closest spot to the front door if they're coming in to exercise.
They get their workout before they get in. So, yeah.
Anything you want to highlight, Jeremy?
Not specifically, just, we're pretty much done outside, just trimming branches here and there, kind of where our snow equipment goes over sidewalks and by parking lots, but just in the rink now, figure skating and hockey and open skate. We do have Pink the Rink coming up on January the 4th, so that's
It's right around the corner.
probably our busiest weekend with crowds, and I got 10 games down here, so there's either 7 or 8 on Toshiba, and I don't know if I counted the 8U game, but there's an 8U scrimmage and 2 sport games, I believe, on Innovative for that weekend, or that day.
Steve, how many times have you put up some of the Christmas decorations?
Every year that I've been here.
No, I meant this year.
Oh, put them back up because of the wind.
Yes.
It's been 3 or 4 times. But it happens every year. But other than that, we're just kind of getting snow equipment ready for the winter and hauled a bunch of tree piles from around the lake and starting on our tree removals and tree work for the winter.
Much of my report pertains to what's below in the agenda items. I'll note that the jetty, there's a couple of different timelines. One initially showed that it would be done by this fall, but not fully complete until next year in terms of the concrete and things on it. Now it looks like due to needing to find a different source for the rock, that won't be completed until early next summer, and then the concrete may not be poured until November. And the would have been a shelter on there at one point. It's now going to be just the footings for the shelter, and the shelter will be a separately budgeted item for a future capital budget.
The issue with, what's the issue with the rock? They're just out?
The source they were getting it from, not enough there.
Okay.
Pickleball courts, we had a meeting this afternoon, and I indicated that when I have more information as far as the follow-up notes from that meeting, I'll make it available to the public. Any questions on the information which I presented here?
Okay, we'll move on then. Approve proposed arena staircase.
Is Darcy here?
I'm right here. I'm Darcy Sabers. I've been the president of the Hockey Association for this year, so we'll see how that goes. What we have is an option to put this, a new staircase instead of the metal one that's up there right now. Materials being donated, labor being donated, so that we can access that area above the locker rooms and the storage unit that's up there, so we can start to have a goalie rental area, move our jerseys area, and then just increase the storage for the, kind of the clutter that's around the floor of the rink. Men's league cabinet would go away, it would all be stored under there, kind of more secure for them, and then some of the training equipment, so that that stuff would not be in everybody's access points, so.
Some notes that I have regarding that. Building inspector, Jeremy did touch base with him just to make certain that everything is according to code. I think what was depicted here, there was a rise which is a little bit more than what it was, that code showed, but he indicated that the rise no more than 7 inches, the run no less than 11 inches, and no more than a quarter inch variance. And then he talks about handrail on both sides and the baluster height. So that's something that we need his approval.
Yep.
You're gonna block off the access to the top of the locker rooms? You can put a wall up there or something?
That's actually the area they want for
Yeah.
storage. Is it?
On the left, like go up and to the left?
Yeah, so there'll be, we're going to move that opening down and put a solid door in so that it can be locked.
Okay.
Okay, and then there'll be a wall that goes and kind of cuts that stuff off so that you can't, there has to be a door in there so you can access scoreboards
Yep,
and heating
yep.
and cooling and
That was always-
ventilation, stuff like
I was
that.
asking, that
Yep.
was always an issue.
Yep. To try to keep some of the traffic off of there. Originally, we were thinking we could maybe build over all of that stuff and put the kids' shooting cage up there, but I don't think that's going to work out, so we're just going to block that off for now and use it for storage.
Well, I can tell you, being the equipment director for as long as I was, the metal stairs this is
Yeah.
way better. The metal stairs are just plain dangerous, period. Like, period.
We're on wheels.
Yeah, and they're on wheels,
Yeah.
which adds more danger. Yeah.
And that will also give us a little bit of privacy for that locker room, the boys varsity locker room, so that they can't be as well seen from the crowd, things like that, so. But we were, Jeremy kind of voted for the second option with the longer single staircase that does not have the turn, so it doesn't stick out as far from the wall. Wouldn't block that door access back there for fire and whatever, so,
Because here she'd be coming out away from the wall.
correct.
This one.
Yep.
Direction.
So we'll start right at locker room 5's door and end at locker room 6.
Questions, comments, board?
Are there estimates on what the cost will be?
And it's totally their expense, so it's.
Yep.
Said it was all volunteer.
Yep. We have material and labors being donated for, the labor is from the buildings committee. They get their dib hours that way, so they're going to be doing that. And then they have 2 or 3 different guys that are accessing the labor for us. We have a fundraising thing and a grant that we did for last year that we have money to use for that, so. There's some open concrete there too that's not covered with the skate-safe areas, so that'll cover that up.
Any concerns, Jeremy?
Nope, just getting that rise and run right.
Yep.
And I like that picture, where it doesn't stick out as far.
Yeah.
And with a door on the top that can be locked.
So that, I'm not familiar with that. So to the right of that, is that a door right there that has the Mitchell Marlins?
Doors.
The locker room
That's the
6.
door, okay. So those stairs,
They go right to the edge of the door frame. That door doesn't open. They use the door next to it. There's 2 doors there.
Like on the left there, the locker room door, see, there's 2 of them.
yeah,
There's 2 on the right too, and the
They'll
one,
change this landing, that the stairs, the run and the rise.
Are
okay.
correct, yes, sorry.
Okay.
I'm not a drafter
No,
by
no, I
any means.
just
I'm a
wanted to make
Photoshop
sure
hack
since they
by all
got
means,
turned
so-
that it was, okay.
So it's gonna be a landing outside of this door.
Yes.
But the stairs will start right here.
Yes, and then we'll make sure that that banister and stuff is all height for code that goes all the way down, so. It would look very similar to the one that's on the other side of the rink that goes up to the current equipment room. It's just one big long staircase.
Any other questions?
So we'll be looking for action to approve contingent upon approval from the building inspector.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy.
Yeah.
Next is approved proposed trail expansion from Sandy Beach to Celia Pines.
We have a guest for this too, Dwight. So he went out and walked a lot of this, all of it last year, not that he doesn't walk it a lot already, with somebody from the engineering department. They mapped it out on here to show different takes on what it would look like. I'll let Dwight step up here.
Dwight Scott with Palace City Peddlers. So what we're looking at is we have that asphalt trail that comes down and just ends at Sandy Beach. And we're looking at extending that type of trail, except for right now, talking about being a aggregate trail. This was proposed at the bike committee this spring, whenever that was. And then we went out and walked it, flagged it, and they ran the GPS on it. So what we're asking for right now, I guess, is approval of the whole, of doing this trail, but we were looking at, there's 2 spots. One right at Sandy Beach and the other one at the very south end of this trail in Camp Arroyo that needs to be cut out. There is lots of buckthorn and dead trees. So we're looking at being able, this is a great time of the year to go in and remove the brush and trees that would be along this trail.
You want to take the pointer and as I scroll,
Okay, you can.
I mean,
But if you take it from where the arrow is into that first, right there, that's about the area that needs to be cut out in Sandy Beach. You're going through a lot of buckthorn, like I said, and then you come out to where it's more open, basically, and then if you keep going down, this is all open area, pretty much open anyway. You come up along the road there. You're coming down into Camp Arroyo right there, through, you're following existing road and trail. just keep coming down,
So this
Nate.
Cameroy again.
Yeah. And so if you keep right above just go up, right in, come farther down to your left. Right about in there is another area that needs to get cut out. That's where all the brush and stuff is. And so we were looking at being able to go in and get that cut out here this winter.
Looks like the entrance point's gonna be to the,
Well,
whatever direction that is.
yeah,
Towards
that,
there it was before.
so when he came out and, we didn't finish the very end of that, where the trail, the existing trail is, we came up to the existing trail, not knowing if we would go out where he has that, or going and using the existing entrance that comes across from Celia Pines. There is, and I know Kevin, I asked him, and he said, and I know from other park and rec directors, they don't want as many access points as coming in, so bringing it back and putting it at the same point.
How far back is that, Dwight, the other access point?
It's, what would you say, from 100 feet, 150
Yeah,
feet, something
maybe
like 100 feet, I suppose.
You can kind of see it right where the shadows split right there, right up, right there, up. That's
There it is.
that's the trail, yep.
I think that'd make a neighbor to the south a little happy too, to go away from the mailbox.
Not cut across their yard, or have a chance of that.
And I know Dwight would have kept it clear anyhow, regardless of what the map shows. Any questions on the trail? Anything you want to highlight again, or need to look at the map again? This one, he's looking for approval tonight to begin this process over the winter months here, and I guess as early as next week, just, or maybe even later this week, just based upon no snow cover.
Can I make a motion? All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Proposed second loop of single track trail in Celia Pines.
So this one, we don't have maps for, it's more discussion at this point, just to, I'll let, again, Dwight bring forth this one.
So, I was asked a few years ago about being able to change the trail so bikes didn't go by the picnic tables. I looked at it, and now that we are going to lose fire steel, which would be a similar flat area in the trees, and looking at that, I was, just looked and said, maybe we could put a double loop in Celia Pines, get us back some of our mileage that we're losing. And we have cross-country skiers that use fire steel, and this would give them some more area to ski on. Here, if we don't have trees to make it so the sun doesn't shine on the snow, we lose the snow in a fairly quick. So, that's part of the reason, started looking at this and said, we're not going forward and doing all the work, laying it all out if we don't have an agreement to be able to do it, I guess. So,
And he did already visit with a neighbor or two, just to get opinions on whether or not something like that, like ruffle feathers, or, it sounds like thus far, we're okay.
yeah, so if the person that's gonna be the most against it. I talked to, want to keep them in the loop. If they were here to vote on it, would they vote yes? No, they wouldn't. But are they going to stand in the way of it? No, I don't think so. But the whole thing is to make sure that that he knows anyway, that what's going on and why it's happening.
So is it going to crisscross with the other?
No, we will not, Chris. Okay, you know how in the center we have where you can hook the two trails together? So it would hook all four together right there, but we're not going to crisscross. We'll keep it in two separate loops. But you will be able to, because when you get to that one point, you're going to be able to figure eight it or however you want to do. But,
They're going to go inside the existing one or outside?
well, some of the trail that's already there is going to be moved to the other.
Got it.
So there will be a west loop and there will be an east loop. And more than likely, what's already on the east side will be the west side of the east loop, and what's on the west side will be the west side of the west loop. Other than, where they get to where they're just about touching each other in the center, that'll get changed. And there'll be some area that we will have to shut some trail down, but that won't be hard to do as we're cutting it out. That's where we'll pile the brush.
So we did
So-
have volunteers from a football team carry out brushes last year. We'll have
Right.
to make certain
Yep.
that they know that stays.
Yeah, we had, we have that again? Yeah, I think most of them. We had like 33 Dakota Wesleyan football players come out and spend an hour and a half or 2 hours this summer pulling out the,
We had
So-
a couple truckloads of brush to haul away.
yeah, I guess Steve would know more about how much there was.
Did you have to use the payloader with it, Steve?
Yeah, there's a few truckloads.
So right now, we're just getting kind of a feel for this to see if anybody is excited about it or vehemently opposed or what the flavor is in the room. Because we'll do something more formal on paper in terms of what this might look like if we get a feeling that it's okay.
I think it's great. It's where you teach people to ride, and the more trail condensed, with the more twists and the more turns, the better, because that's what you're teaching them before they go on something where they could crash and hurt themselves. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think with the removal of fire steel down the road, I think it'd be great. It's a great place to get kids and beginners out riding. I don't know about cross-country skiing since I don't do that, but I do ride a lot, and I think that's where we've taken just about every kid to get started.
So I don't know that you're gonna have time to, if this was approved, at, let's say, at the next meeting, to already tear into something within January, but we could bring it to the January meeting if we have time to put something together on a map before then.
Should be able to, yeah. I mean, right now is the perfect time to lay it out because you can actually see. When all the leaves are on and whatever, you can't see.
See what
It's
stakes
hard to
out.
see a flag 20 feet away, but now we can see it. So,
Okay,
Thank you, Dwight.
yeah. Proposed story walk.
We have another guest tonight, Julie.
Hello. Yes, I'm Julie Hart-Schutte with the Mitchell Kiwanis Club. And we're also in kind of the starting point of talking about a story walk. And I actually did print a few slides here with some information on
And I
it.
put a couple links in my report.
You did good. So the Mitchell Kiwanis Club had the opportunity to see the story walk that Madison has, and their Kiwanis Club helped put this in. Theirs is actually at their library in Madison because they have kind of a little park attached to it, so they were able to do this there. And we thought it was a pretty fantastic thing to do, and Kiwanis is all about kids, and so we decided that we thought that would be something that we could do here. Not seeing it fitting very well at our library, but more at one of the parks. And in talking with Kevin, his suggestion was Patton Young with the brand-new playground equipment there, and it has quite a bit of space that is available as well, that we thought that would be a good location. The push is to get kids not just reading, but to get them outside and reading. And so how this works, the Story Walk is set up. The one in Madison had 16 frames, and in each frame is part of a book. And the kids proceed around a path while reading the book. And in addition to just reading the book, there's additional information in there too, educational information, perhaps about protagonists or cause and effect or things like that. So we just thought this was a very cool thing that we'd like to see if the city would be interested in working with us on it. We've also talked to Dakota Wesleyan's education department about putting together these storyboards that go within these frames. And we haven't approached the library about it when we knew we weren't going to do it at that location, but we definitely would want to include the library with it as well. Maybe they'd want to do the storyboards for some of the time as well. And we want to promote the library so kids go there to check out books. The cost that I asked Madison what it cost them, they said it was about $5,000. I said, well, that's a year ago, and we know how prices go, so I just gave it a little cushion there for $7,500. Kiwanis is willing to put that together. We will pay for that. Like when we did our playground, we paid for that. The city did the installation, so that would be where we'd ask for city input, is installing these storyboards. The ongoing maintenance of storyboards, Madison does it quarterly. We thought that sounded like a good idea, so quarterly we would go in and replace the book with a new book. And again, Dakota Wesleyan would help us with that, or perhaps the library. We even discussed recently about perhaps even highlighting some of our local authors, our local children's book authors like Jean Patrick. And so we thought that would be a kind of a neat way to promote some of our local authors and books as well. And we would help with that. Kiwanis would, Dakota Wesleyan would make those boards. We'll go out and install them as each quarter comes up. And so the ones you have there, one of the things that they do encourage too, and it is a Kiwanis Club, and of course we want to promote some of our things too. So the Kiwanis Club up there, the book they did, as you can see, was If You Give a Pig a Pancake. And their very last one had a little promotion for their pancake feed that they do up there. I've already been checking into spaghetti books for the Kiwanis spaghetti dinner, so we would probably try to do a spaghetti book at some point as well.
I won't release that name.
Okay, so if there's any questions, this is just at the preliminary stage. I did get information on where Madison got their panels from, but I think I sent you a couple of websites as well, Kevin, that we could utilize. They look pretty simple to put together. Madison used, I believe it was aluminum mounts. You have an angled view. You keep it kind of shorter for kids to be able to do. And a couple of accessible things we would like to do as well is we would put QR codes on them, on the storyboards that would, parents could maybe scan them, and then that book could be read to them as well. If you have a student with, or a child with reading issues, or even if you had someone who's visually impaired or something like that, that they could perhaps have it read to them as well. And we thought about also having the books done in a QR code in Spanish as well.
I like the idea of the mulch underneath, about the distance away of what a mower would need to be able to travel without bumping into it. And that might be done with a border of pavers or something of that nature. And then, of course, drop it down to keep the mulch in there.
So we're just looking at input. If this is something that the city thinks that we can go ahead with, we'll pursue a more formal proposal.
What is the, is it like a glass?
I think it's fiberglass is what it is,
fiberglass?
yeah.
It just slides in.
Well, the back, the one that they had in Madison, there were screws on the back that you could open it up. You had to use like a certain tool. I don't think it was an Allen wrench. I think it was something else that they had that you could open up the back, and then, yeah, you could slide the boards in.
It wouldn't just be thumb screws to where
No.
somebody could disassemble it.
No, we don't want that.
And that's one of the safest marks in terms of
Vandalism. Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to put it at Kiwanis Woodlot Park. We've had to replace our little library out there at least 3 times, so.
Questions, concerns? We're looking at thumbs up. Anybody on the fence or?
Awesome, yeah.
All right, we will pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Non-stationary vendors and parks.
Go back to my report and show you where we had left off in terms of some of the discussion items, what we had left to determine. I'll read this out loud. There'd be a permitting process required for vending of products that are for sale or otherwise distributed for promotional purposes, and that otherwise distributed wasn't discussed at the November board meeting, but it was something that we've discussed internally, that we can't just have somebody setting up camp and saying, here you go, this is something that I plan to be selling, or here's a free product you can have. If they're going to be out there, they need to have a permit to that, and that came from our city attorney. There'll be a fee-related permit for each event with the option of a seasonal vending permit. There'll be restrictions in terms of locations where vending will not be allowed, and also minimum distances that must be maintained from the existing vending that's going on. And some of those we've talked about would be over at Cadwell, the arena, and perhaps the pool, and similar. The permits will be applicable to any and all park properties within reason. For instance, somebody can't say, well, I'm going to set up on an inner tube in the pool. You know what, that's not reasonable. So we'd have to lay some ground rules without having to spell out everything. And it'll be public information once a vendor acquires a permit for such, but contact information will not be disclosed. So if let's say Luke comes in and buys a permit, somebody's going to know the business that came in and got a permit, but we don't give out the information of his phone number and address for someone to contact him and say, well, what days are you going to be out there with what product? It's simply fair game. Somebody gets a permit, you're able to go out there too. The things we have to determine yet would be, will approval be done by the park board or by the park and rec director? If you want to review these, we need to know a couple of months in advance for best purposes. Let's say we went just 2 weeks in advance. Well, if tonight we wouldn't have had a quorum and somebody wanted to vend next week, it wouldn't have worked for them if tonight's meeting got canceled. So I would think that 6 to 8 weeks in advance would be best if it's going to be the park board. If it's going to be the park and rec director, me, a couple of weeks is fine. I'd be needing to make some judgment calls on things, and I would think that we're not going to have an overwhelming amount on these. And I would likely reach out to a couple of you if I had questions, or perhaps another park and rec agency to see what they've done in such cases, or maybe both. Fees last month were suggested. We just I listed a lot of them. This is at the higher end, 25 per event or 60 for a season. And then can vending take place within park shelters? We've had one group, the swim club, that has done that. But they do vend as part of their contract within the within the confines of the fence. But because of the foot traffic in there, it got awfully tight for them. But I believe our vending stays open during that time as well, Kevin? Was theirs more sport drink related and things of that nature, or?
Their concession stand,
Yes.
I think they did hot dogs, and they might have grilled some hamburgers too.
Okay.
Did they grill them? Yeah, I think they did.
So
It was a full kind of a concession stand.
So almost competing type of thing.
We didn't have burgers, it competed on some things. But
So we would just maybe want to make clear that no duplicating.
Right.
We had another group at one time, they rented, I believe it was the shelter, and then they were selling product out of there, and we didn't find out until after the fact, until we found signs with prices on them in the garbage can right next door. So that's why we're bringing up this thing. Steve happened to come across that, and we indicated to the group ahead of time this past year that that's not acceptable. So thoughts on that too? Going back to park board or park and rec director, any thoughts on that in terms of who you think should handle it?
I don't know that it approve every single one. Do we?
I don't think so either. Unless you don't want to deal with it.
We can always change it later.
As long as we lay the ground rules to where I don't need to make judgment calls constantly on every point of their contract or their permit, I don't see an issue with me handling it.
Well, a couple of places I just thought of, like there's parks downtown. We're like right in front of the depot now. Is that technically parkland? So somebody could theoretically set up a vendor right in front of the depot,
So,
right?
and you're talking,
The grass
The
area that's
green
right in front of the
space.
depot, that's.
Depot,
that-
yep,
yeah,
I was thinking out here in
That's,
front of.
that's technically a park, right? Or I don't know what that's considered, but what I'm saying is, there's
The
multiple,
veterans.
there's multiple parks right downtown with businesses that are established businesses.
So if you want to add another stipulation, not to within, but we have no control of the streets. So if somebody decides to set up in front
Right.
of a current restaurant,
Right. But that's not our jurisdiction.
but if we were talking about Railroad Plaza, I think it's called,
I don't know, and I don't know if it would be an issue or not, this is just what popped into my head.
oh, I think with property owners it would be.
Yeah, because the lake also popped into my head. You know, if I wanted to, which I'd be super cool with, have a giant barge out on the lake that's serving stuff,
So the lake itself,
right, because the lake is a park. I
that
mean,
pop in your head when I mentioned inner tube in the pool?
yes.
You were on a more granular scale.
Well, it popped in my head because we were at Lake Okoboji sitting in a bar, on a barge. And that's what just popped into my head was, and it was cool.
It's like those eight-person bicycle things, you pedal down the street, you capture the scene.
Yeah, right. But anyway, it's just a couple of things I thought of. I'm like, are we okay with that or aren't we okay with that?
And like I said, we've got a couple months to make the actual permit here, and have the actual rules solidify those, but.
You should work to make sure you ain't like that.
Well, you know, like, maybe no one will push the boundaries of this. I don't know. I mean, maybe there won't be a vendor that will push the boundaries. I don't know, but there's definitely some boundaries to be pushed.
There are always going to be some liabilities to boundaries.
Now that you brought it up,
Yeah.
there'll be a barge.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know, on the lake, but.
So I've got on Lake question mark Railroad Plaza. I would say not in that space. Because
Well, they're just anywhere in those parks right downtown, right next to food business. I mean, restaurants have a hard enough time making it downtown the way it
Right.
is. And,
Another would be Veterans Park. I mean, that's close to.
right,
It's close to Zest though. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
And there's bars close by there. Not that families can go in bars, but they do, but.
There's also events down there too, that, I mean, people set up, could
Yeah.
possibly set up during an event.
Absolutely.
Like Memorial Day
Yeah,
event,
absolutely.
You know, where they could say Veterans Park would be available for them to set up, there's already an event down there.
And right now, if there's an event, I believe that vending is handled by Mitchell Main Street in terms of permitting them and allowing them to be in. But, so specifically parks, if we're talking Veterans Park and Railroad Plaza, any other restrictions that you think of that are close to downtown?
we got the court, there's the park that's
Yeah,
right
you
next
got-
to the city.
We got the Plaza Rotary Park across the street.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of them right now.
Well, does the Diamond store own the park on the,
That's private park,
that is?
yeah. Right, Steve? You never know that.
What, are these vendors going to need to seek out events on their own? Or are you, Kevin, going to provide them with any scheduling? Or are they all on their own?
Mr. Chamberlain, here's your opportunity for you to come up and give us your input if you wish.
My intention is to sell for Dakota Wesleyan the fields that the city owns for softball, baseball, soccer is kind of my intention. If there's other opportunities, I would look at doing them. I think most vendors, though, probably wouldn't be looking to set up in a park. It's, unless there's a reason, like some sort of an event going on, or a game going on, there's other places, better places to actually be set up than just some random park. So that's probably what you'll end up seeing.
I think another for you might be the Drake Field area in terms of fields A, B, and C over there, where there's youth games going on. Somebody mentioned that might be an attractive area.
Yeah.
Future pickleball court, you might have a tournament at pickleball court in Hitchcock Park. Probably park right there on Babe Road right next to the pickleball courts.
Could be.
So I guess what I'm getting at, if there's, and I don't know, maybe Jeremy can speak to this, how frequently Hitchcock baseball field over there is utilized. Is if this gentleman wants to go and set up at Hitchcock Park, is he,
Provide these X distance from the pool, whatever.
yeah, is he gonna contact you guys for a schedule? Is he gonna,
It is still go through me.
but are you gonna
Oh, as
provide
far as
him with,
schedule.
yeah, as far as who's there and how frequently it's used, or is he gonna have to do the groundwork on finding out who's there?
That's something I don't have. So it would be that person doing the research, or do we all put something out there and say, we're not looking for bids. So I think it's at a point where people have to search for their own venues to find places to vent.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, I don't wanna put more work on your table by like providing events. Like if somebody calls and says, hey, I want a event sheet of your parks, like which baseball games are going on in the summer on these fields?
I would steer them to who does the scheduling.
Or they're on their own, yeah, I mean, I don't know what,
It's hard to say in park fields because they practice every day, and I only know about games if we chalk them.
yeah.
A lot of times they just get hold of another team and play on a Tuesday night. I don't know about it.
If there's not at least 3 games there, you would think it would be a crowd big enough to.
Oh, there's a crowd big enough if they get, but I don't know about them if we don't chalk them. They'll just use their practice time, get another team, and then they don't pay the $35 for us to go and chalk it.
So I know, I mean, in the last couple summers, whoever's ran one of the ice cream vehicles or whatever, they've done, all they do is they just check, they know a couple people to check in with and whatnot, and hey, you guys, they call on their own or whatever, you guys haven't practiced tonight at whatever that, Monroe, you guys practicing in Monroe and whatever.
Yeah,
So they know kind of where, they just kind of do their groundwork on it.
And they're in the street already, so there's nothing
Yeah.
to do with stuff.
But I'm just saying, obviously, he's got a plan of talking with Dakota Wesleyan on when and where, and,
But if it's someone else at a park or, say, a travel team, 12 and under, I have a sheet with names,
so
contact information.
basically.
You get a hold of me, I could email you something real quick. If it is a Mitchell
Here's the
game,
contact list, you call him.
yep.
Yeah,
If it's a Mitchell baseball, here's Mitchell Baseball's website. Go see when their home games are.
just to take work off of the city's plate as far as,
Yeah, because we're not benefiting anything from it.
Yeah.
If you did have a one-pager where it had all of the contact numbers of the different, the baseball and all of that, that would be super beneficial, and then that's one of those things you collate at once, and then it's just there.
Is that something you put inside of the summer rec brochure already, contacts as far as the organization?
No, not that, but I do that anyways, because I email it to all the coaches that sign an agreement, and then when
Okay.
they want to change a practice with someone, they're not calling me, and then I got to call a coach and see, nope, that didn't work, I got to call you back, they want to try it a different time. They get the contact information of each head guy for each team, where they're practicing,
That's perfect.
and I send it to all of them
Yep.
every spring. I could just add whoever on that, or hold up and email it real quick.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Any other questions for a local vendor while he's up at the mic? Any other comments you have?
No.
Mr. Chamberlain? Thank you, sir.
Yep, you're welcome.
I'm glad you mentioned on the lake, Railroad Plaza. I've written all these things down. I would say on the lake, what are your thoughts on that? If somebody's going around out there, and it's actually considered to be park property.
Well, it'd have to be available if we're gonna do this bidder thing, they're gonna have to be available to use that. Go out there, and honestly, there's nothing out there anyway, so I mean, it'd be beneficial for the city to have somebody out there.
What's the difference between parking at where the parking lot is, you know, the main boat dock? What's the difference between parking there and selling stuff out on the middle of the lake out of your?
See, and that's park property as well as the parking lot.
Yeah.
So they'd have to have a permit to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is there's not a difference.
Unless we restrict it and say,
Yeah.
hey, sorry, but no, but someone's got to be able to police it. Get caught doing it on the
I don't know if people on the lake are gonna be searching high and low for a
I was
vendor.
just
I don't,
thinking, like, you have a boat and you pull up at the docks, right? And, I don't know, I was just thinking out of the box.
I know you are. And we're not making fun of
Must be way out of the
anybody's
box.
ideas.
I can see it.
I started with the inner tube.
I actually could add to that if you wanted some
Sure.
insight.
Yep.
Here's somebody else really
I belong to a couple of different groups, and one of them, hot dog vendors. It talks about how there's some people that actually go on like Lake Superior, and they do that. They float around on a barge. Okiboji is another example of that, where the only thing that you need to be aware of about that, and if that's going to be a concern, is that for them to legally vend, they're going to have to still adhere to the health codes. So that might be really difficult to actually get a full food truck onto a barge to go float around the lake. Probably cost prohibitive, and probably not a significant thing. You could though, with a hot dog cart, you could do the same thing. It'd be a lot easier. I can get my cart through a double door, so I can get it onto a pontoon, and I could sell it. So that would be one of the things that you'd want to consider. But the most important is that it would still have to pass, whatever they're setting up as, it still have to pass health and safety for them to be legally able to do that.
I don't think people have had those ideas until we brought it up here.
Call somebody other than me.
It'd be kind of fun, though.
Thank you again. Anything else on this one? We'll bring it back again. Nail it down just a bit more. Metal detectors in parks. If I'm ready to move on. If we are, okay. We visited last month. We didn't have a full house as far as board directors. I think we've got one or maybe two different people here this month. I had mentioned that in October I was driving past Hitchcock on the east end on the way to my home, and there was a guy there with a metal detector, and I pulled over and went up and talked to him, and he said, well, we have permission to do this. I said, who'd you talk to? Park and Rec. You didn't talk to me, who'd you talk to? I said, no, we have, we talked to Park and Rec. I said, anyway, so this went around for about 20 seconds, and I said, well, I don't think you should dig here anymore. He had a shovel with a blade that was 14 to 16 inches long, and he was down 8 to 10 inches, 10 to 12 inches in the ground, and found something within that plug of dirt that get dug out. And this got into discussion last month. We talked about how there's, and this wasn't the boulevard, there's generally not irrigation on the boulevard. We have irrigation on the boulevard. Okay, so irrigation's in the boulevard and on the parks, and there's wires that run along the irrigation to operate the valves. So people could run into that sort of thing. I don't assume a metal detector is going to detect, or perhaps they will, combined with a plastic or PVC pipe. so somebody could dig into a pipe without knowing it. Just a thought, I brought it up here, I don't want to say anybody excited about or opposed. Somebody did express some concern about, the irrigation's there, I wouldn't want to see this in the middle of a trail out there when we're riding bike, all of a sudden somebody dug for something. But I did talk to the city attorney, and he said he'd be adverse to anything that, reluctant to allow for anything that would disturb the soil. So that's where I kind of left it last month, thinking that perhaps you as a board want to act on something like that. Thoughts?
After I left, I thought about this, and like, as a business, I can't go dig anywhere without having utility locates called. Like, literally, you can't just go dig. You have to have utility locates called in.
If you're pumping stakes in the ground for a tent.
Right. You have to be careful for all of that, you know, and when we hit them cutting 4-inch edging lines with the trenches, we hit telecom lines and all kinds of stuff. And so I kind of started to decide on the side of the attorney and just say you can't, period, because you can't do it anywhere else. I mean, you just can't do that. Somebody's gonna get hit somewhere.
At least not let them use a big shovel. I mean, that's pretty invasive.
But he said he's hit stuff in 4 inches.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
he's-
and like, I can tell you that we do a lot of irrigation repair because of signage. People putting signs in their yards, or people putting, like a bank or whatever puts a sign up, inevitably they hit an irrigation line. It happens, so, I don't know, you don't want to stop people from doing stuff that they really enjoy, but at the same time, if you're digging, you have a chance of hitting something.
I know you don't mind getting the business, but for the most part, you won't get the irrigation business from them.
Yes. Well, but there's more than just that. I mean, you have, like I said, you got Mitchell Telecom, you got Vaco, you got all of it.
I just think if they're digging with a shovel, you will have those people that put the grass back as good as they can, but you'll have people that will just dig it up and maybe throw the sod back on top, maybe not. I think that's gonna be hard to police unless it's just a yes or no, or maybe a hand trowel, but if somebody's going out there with a regular shovel, I think I think you're gonna have issues with that, and then whatever grows back won't be grass, it'll be weeds. And then all the way around the lake, so since that's a park, they could go just dig anywhere out around the lake. There's a ton of metal out there. At some point, what word is it?
So I was thinking about this when, because I have a metal detector. I've taken it to Florida on the beach. A lot different when you're surfing through the sand and,
Lower lines, irrigation.
yeah. But I thought, what are there going to be, if the lake gets dredged, are there going to be people that want to go out and metal detect in the lake?
Do we have one line someplace that runs across the lake too?
That, I guess I don't know for sure.
There is.
There was a water.
There
line, wasn't
used to
there?
be, or something that crossed the lake for something, but I don't know what it,
I mean, I think there's going to be people, maybe not with metal detectors too, but I'm sure there's going to be people out walking,
Lots of scavengers out there.
yeah. So what, not that we got to talk about that tonight either, but that's kind of another, and maybe that's higher than our,
We can leave the lake out of it with the exception of the lake, or something to that effect. Because we know there's no, for the most part, there's no lines running out there. We are gonna have some irrigation, some holes out, going to be some pipes out there, but that's not gonna be metal. I don't think anybody would have. We don't know that plan yet. Right now, there's wet sumps where the irrigation pumps go down for cemetery, for golf course, and for the complex. And they have to move those out further into the lake because you can't get a wet sump hole well, that's gonna drain another 20 feet down where it currently is. It just won't run in there fast enough to fill to be able to irrigate, so they have to move those holes out further. So it's going to be some temporary lines running out into the lake, is what I'm trying to say. So we just need to be careful of what we're doing when we talk about this.
It's kind of dangerous to let people wander around the lake. It's rain.
And it's an active construction
In an
zone.
active construction, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
true. Seems kind of dangerous to me.
Well, yeah, and that's, I can only imagine what.
Well, there's gonna be all kinds of stuff down
Oh, yeah, so we're gonna be in there like crazy. There's my ice water.
there. Yeah, right.
By full.
There's gonna be a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah. And I guess I'd like to have engineering involved in that conversation too. Because yesterday we talked about, I got the question from somebody who was paying to lease his space and put his boat lift next to the Sportsman's Club. He said, what are you gonna do for us when the lake is drained? So you're the first one to ask me that. Because one thought was they could just leave it in the lake bottom. But, and in the cases of people who normally haul it onto one of our properties, if they haul it up on their own land, it's no big deal. But if they haul it up into one of the park properties and they leave it in there just where the water had been, and the lake fills over the winter months, and then it freezes the lifts in, that's not good. So really, those people will probably want to put it on some parkland. We can't put it next to the Sportsman's Club or the public beach because we mow those spaces. So we talked about the new parking lot that was just over next to the Sportsman's Club, the boat ramp there. That'd be an option. But we may or may not use that same fee of $100 over the course of a full year, is what we do for a 5 or 6 month period, but to have it up in a not used park. The other piece of that is the people who do put it up on their own property, do they want to look at that in their yard for 2 years? They have to mow as well in the summer months. So if they're bringing it up and they have enough grass to bring it up, they may not want to leave it there. So we could be accommodating quite a number of units in a parking lot. And Joe did indicate that they're not going to be using that east parking lot for accessing for equipment to go into the lake. So that new parking area would be one that we could likely use for such, but we'll bring that up at a future meeting. Why did I digress? Metal detectors. I can bring that up again because we don't need to decide until after the ground thaws again, or before the ground thaws.
Any other discussion?
Next meeting date? Next year.
Ninth.
Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday.
So you have be the 8th versus on a Wednesday. No, that'd be the
February
9th.
9th. Would the majority of you think, be available on January 9th? We did this last month, and the group that was here said, I'm not available, I'm not available, I'm not available. That's why we ended up on Tuesday night versus Thursday night. But we think this group is all okay with Thursday again?
Yep.
Okay. Beyond Christmas programs and everything else at that time. I have nothing else.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?